Having my spleen removed in Lowell, Massachusetts. As I contemplate the graces and the undulation of this muscular river's course, the abundance of elegance and force in its roiling sorcery, it seems as lovely to me as a dream in stone through which a molten vein pulses, twisting and turning through the night, a restless leviathan in its bed, a union of protean ropes coiled around a roaring din. Amid the scent of teeming clover at the water's edge, I rest my head on a paperback edition of Paris Spleen, a strange companion to my reverie. Contemplate the graces in the undulation of this muscular corpse, the abundance of elegance and force in its divine sorcery. The temptations of my pet hermaphrodite no longer get me through the night, but I must read instead the necromancer's Bible in my worm-infested bed. A Union soldier picking maggots from his shin, sucking on a clove-scented Necco wafer, and resting his head on a smuggled edition of Paris Spleen might seem a strange companion to my decay. Yet he is as lovely as a dream in stone to me. My hermaphrodite, says Grace over the table, a piece of muscle stuck between her teeth, the source of my temptation. I must read Paris Spleen by Baudelaire some day. I have seen his gravestone, his muted corpse food for maggots underneath, no longer restless or clever, but teeming among the stones, contemplating the elegant abundance of his decay, the union of night and dark forces, the rotten ropes of what was once a life dissolving. I rest my case. I dreamed that I was turned into a stone, that I was a hermaphrodite of sorts, full of spleen and elegant grace, a kind of necromancer of desire, weaving together the undulating strands of growth and decay, lovely, dark, and full of death's sweet promise, while soldiering through an 1860 edition of Fleur de Mal, tossing and turning in my bed, like a contemplative who suddenly discovers that this union of muscle and pulsating veins, that the teeming undulations in my head are just a corpse in waiting, a companion to worms. My reverie is interrupted by the smell of clove, some fin de siècle type smoking one of those horrible sticks, feigning decadence, the way a soldier might pretend to be wounded to escape death. The same river pulls me along. I do not know its source, but I am caught in its coils, its dark force muscling me along. I do not know, of course, whether the sorcerer's necromancing stone will melt in the mouth of my hermaphrodite or worm its way into my bed like a molten vein. This is a villanelle. You can tell from all the repetition and the number of stanzas, although it's not a strict villanelle, of course. it plays with the form. It is also um, based on uh, some of Baudelaire's poetry, um, which weaves its way. Some of the language of Baudelaire translated into English weaves its way, and some of the language Baudelaire mistranslated into English weaves its way. So it's this. Um, the poem itself is about different strands, life and death, especially um, weaving together. But at the same time, the poem is different strands weaving together, images and traditions and sources and yeah, and form. This is an occasional poem to Philip on his 50th birthday. There is a place on the branch where the nuthatch stops and then flies away for no reason, like the snapping of fingers in time to a song no one else can hear, where doubt and no doubt have equal sway, where the terror of death is a mere flicker, a figment of what's happening, and then, going on its way, a lingering fragrance lifted on the breeze of He is me, a whistling and the space around the sound absorbing it into eternity, as if there were no bird, no moment, as if I had been merely flipping through the pages of Roger Torrey Peterson's A Field Guide to the Birds, and then stopped. I cannot match the song or the shadow to its proper name. I keep staring at where it was, at what it left behind. A rift, a hankering after some positive result. I am a scientist of this where, of this what, of this what not. Like a springboard humming its low tone, oscillating into rest, or a flattening wave. The slightest tremor of the branch indicates the possibility of life, an echo of its presence, and yet we must be content to trace in it what remains just so and turn the page. All the clocks are liars. Sitting next to the girl with a poem tattooed on her neck, the oxidized ink crawling about like hieroglyphic leeches. It seems that everything is a web. Sorry. It seems that everything is a verb conjugated in a tangle of discordant strings inside this earthy jukebox whose keys are just a lot of aimless symmetries. Great thoughts from great Americans. The first is a actual quote from a newspaper. Once one of the sperm bank's most requested donors, with a profile that described him as 6 foot and blue-eyed with interests in philosophy, music, and drama. Mr. 50 lives with his 4 dogs in a recreational vehicle near the Venice section of Los Angeles. New York Times, 2/14/2007. I have done my part. I have made my art. I have shared what is mine to share. I might as well live in a recreational vehicle on the water. I might as well warm a can of ravioli, invite the neighbor over to open a box of wine, and let the dogs, Metro, Spidey, Sondheim, and Tex, run on the street. I have fulfilled my biological destiny. I am now officially done with the philosophy of the waiting room. Xenophanes said it best. Even if someone happened by chance to say what is true, he still would not know that he did so. What we cannot speak about, we must leave behind for others to explain. The pale, oyster-colored dollop in a Dixie cup, the yellowing, hackneyed, hardened stain. No man truly knows his father. We live with lies and broken promises every day. So what? If only we could be content with domed clouds and gray, cracked like a broken plate full of light. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Here's another occasional poem. Can't imagine why this one didn't get published. Looking at it from the point of view of Osama bin Laden. September 11th. I feel a little bit, sorry, September 11th. I feel a little like Osama bin Laden, 9.5 years after September 11th, pacing the scrabbled path within the concrete walls of the courtyard which I am not allowed to leave, or not wanting to leave my third floor room, clicking dully through internet porn while my trusted courier drones on and on about the blood of the infidels. I am trying to plot some horrible deed to commemorate the 10th anniversary of our attack on the World Trade Center, but the ordinary well of feeling, like cold water poured from an earthen jug into a simple bowl, clear and bright, with only one window from which slants the only light, to illuminate the gloom, to wash my hands for prayer, seems to have corroded into a mere gradients. This interior has become a medium of stifled fear, and the penumbra here a bluish tinge, and the darkness itself seems to have darkened within me, so that I am as lifeless as a heavy-lidded capitalist whose only true consolation is that he has made others more afraid than he. I think I'll do two more in this batch. The Goldfinch. What does the goldfinch in the child's hand, in Tiepolo's Madonna and the Goldfinch mean? By the time of the Italian Renaissance it had become an accepted symbol of the Passion of Christ, because European goldfinches are fond of eating thistles and thorns, not to be confused with the American goldfinch, which is not symbolic of anything. Lively, gregarious, a little spitfire, with its characteristic roller coaster flight, uttering bright notes at the apex of its plunge, nesting late, often not settling down until August, indiscriminate, wintering with all sorts, redpolls, siskins, crossbills, and the like, and, with its long and pleasing song, somewhat reminiscent of a canary, but packed with a medley of trills and other notes, often including one distinct sweet sound that pierces through the rest, like a kind-hearted sailor from an old black-and-white movie whistling at a dame who breezes past, not in a wolfish or aggressive way, but almost as if just letting off some steam. Okay, last one, switchback. Switchback. A single-file switchback trail was our cathedral steps, and clouds piled up in corner pews, trailing cold, wet skirts, and an occasional drop of rain, just another spring day in Montana. We planned it that way, a morning hike, a horseback ride, and then a ceremony to join our lives. My sister did your hair, wove tiny flowers into tight braids to keep it in place. But the wind, like a creek in thaw, pulled a strand out here and there. That stuck to your sudden tears, tears of happiness perhaps, but sadness too, and warm on your red raw cheeks.